College football with one heck of a weekend. We've discussed a lot of the games throughout the weekend. Even the Big 12 have a couple that you're looking at. And we just mentioned KU and BYU, among others, and Max Olson, theathletic.com. So, Max, let's start with Alabama. We've seen the struggles they've been through. Ole Miss can score. They're going back with Jalen Milroe. Are they kind of a mess right now? There's not really sure who they are?
Yeah, the commentary from Nick Saban this week has been interesting. I think I saw just today he was saying, Jalen Milroe's the guy. Nobody's questioning that. We have a lot of confidence in him, and I didn't really feel that way a week ago. But I think they're trying to build him up and maybe that USF game just kind of proved the point that, hey, this is the best option, and there are some things that he can do really well in some ways in which the offense is limited, but it beats the alternatives in terms of what they've got in the room. So I'm fascinated to see how they respond to the challenge this week, because I think Ole Miss is good. And I think that, look, it's still Alabama. Ole Miss is still going to have to do a ton of things right. And Jackson Dart, if he doesn't take care of the football, then this game can get away from them. But this is an Ole Miss team that I'm sure smells blood in the water here and feels like this is their chance to get over on Alabama. And we know Lane Kiffin is going to be bringing the kitchen sink for this game. So this is it's an incredibly interesting game, and one that, if you're not really sold on this Alabama team yet, and I know I'm not, you're really curious to see how do they show up this week.
I know that quarterback is the most glaring issue that they have, Max, but around it, like, they've been able to win with quarterbacks who were kind of just a guy before. It seems to me that this is also intersected with the fact that everything else isn't as good as it was at Alabama before.
Yeah, they were talking. I mean, I saw comments from Nick Saban this week about, the cake, comparing it to the situation to a cake. And yeah, the cake went in the oven, we took it out, and we put it back in the oven. We think it's ready now. It's like, what about the frosting? I don't think that, when they had lesser quarterbacks during their dynasty run, you still had a Derrick Henry, or you still had these guys that you felt like you can lean on to be the offensive identity. Certainly in 2020 when they won the title, Mac Jones did a great job of distributing the football, but it was a freaky group of receivers, obviously. And so, I think part of it is just really questioning, do they have, I think you've seen some flashes from Jason McClellan and Roy Dale Williams, and there's they certainly have blue chip type of guys at receiver and stuff, and the offensive line has to improve. I mean, that's going to have to continue over the course of the season, but I agree. I mean, there's you can definitely question the supporting cast as well.
Max, in a battle of the Pac-12, I guess, survivors, come the end of the year, Oregon State and Washington State are the leftovers, or last minute.
Guys, we got breaking news here.
What's that?
Lincoln Riley has lifted the suspension on the reporter.
Oh, okay. We'll get to that. We will get to that.
Justice for Luka Evans. He's back. All right.
Yeah.
That is very interesting news. So yeah, we will.
Okay,
we will
sorry,
get
go
to
ahead.
That. No, yeah. I mean, but staying in the Pac-12, I mean, the two teams that are still without homes beyond this year, Max, squaring off at a top 25 matchup. Man, Oregon State, Washington State, what are your thoughts on this game? And, just in the grand scheme of things, you were somebody who was involved heavily in reporting about realignment and all the twists and turns. Where do you see these two teams at this point on the field, but also the off the field part of it as well?
Yeah, I mean, certainly these two teams have been brought together by the circumstances here, and they definitely don't hate each other, but they definitely are hating the world at the moment. And I think it's it's a really interesting matchup, and the timing of it, especially when this is still unresolved, it's going to be. I'm curious to see kind of the message coming out of that game. But I tell you what, guys, Oregon State's good. I mean, they are, and I think they were great last year. They brought a lot back. I like what I've seen from DJ so far in non-conference play. Like, I think they are going to be a problem in this Pac-12 race. And I think we've seen Cameron Ward for Washington State take his game to another level so far this season. So, I do think these teams belong in the race. They deserve respect. And, they've been through a lot. Obviously, there's not any certainty about what 2024 looks like. But, I love that they're playing each other, and that they get a chance to, compete, and then try to send a message about, the the fact that they belong in a Power 5 league.
Max, if the game with Colorado State that ended well past midnight, in fact, in the 2 o'clock hour where I live in the Central Time and where you are too, but if that drew the numbers it drew, what happens if Colorado happens to go to Eugene and shock them, and it would be, and then come home to host the Heisman Trophy winner and Caleb Williams and USC?
Yeah, pretty unbelievable. And I think we all thought the TCU game was going to go a certain way. So when you see the lines like 20 again this week, you're like, okay, well, it's probably a little high, right? I mean, I think there are reasons to be a little bit concerned about, like, some of the matchup disadvantages that Colorado has against Oregon. But you're totally right. There's something pretty magical going on in Boulder. I got to see it myself with the Nebraska game, and this is something that you're seeing, like, just the attention around it and the interest around Deion Sanders and Colorado and the Coach Prime effect and all that. Like, you're definitely, it feels like when you see those overnight numbers for a game against Colorado State that everyone should be sleeping during. Like, clearly this is, like, it's not just the biggest story in college football and sports, but it's, like, kind of transcending sports at this point. Like, more people are interested in it that have, no stake in Colorado whatsoever. So, if they were to pull it off, I mean, that would just be pretty unbelievable. And I know from talking to him this week, Ray Yormark is pretty thrilled by what he's seeing from Coach Prime and what they're bringing to this conference next year.
Yeah, he's just licking his lips, I'm sure. Excited about the feast of ratings that's going to come to the Big 12. Max, Notre Dame and Ohio State is an interesting, it's a huge, two premier blue blood matchup. And Notre Dame's not been great in these kind of big games lately, but they actually have they definitely have the experience advantage. They have the experience advantage at quarterback here with Sam Hartman versus Kyle McCord. Is this one that maybe Marcus Freeman can hang on the mantle after it's all said and done?
Yeah, I mean, you can question the quality of competition Notre Dame has played through their first 4 games, but I think they've been really impressive, really consistent. And Sam Hartman is playing as good as advertised for sure. He looks like, he's got a really steady control of what they're doing in their new offense. And I feel like he has been one of the best quarterbacks in the country. And, I know Ohio State pulled away and put up a ton of points against Western Kentucky last week, but overall, like, I'm not sure it's been the most inspiring start by Ohio State. And I think if you're a Notre Dame fan, you're probably talking yourself into the real possibility you can pull this off, that this is, Ohio State is still kind of figuring things out with Kyle McCord. And the defense has been excellent. I think it will be excellent again this week. But I think that if you're a Notre Dame fan, you're probably pretty optimistic and kind of like your chances based on what you've seen from your team and what you've seen from Ohio State this week. I lean Ohio State. I think Jim Knowles is doing a great job with this group, and is going to make it difficult for the Irish to put up a lot of points. But wouldn't be shocked if Notre Dame pulled it off. And honestly, if they win that game, I know we've had Texas and Florida State and some teams rise up really quickly. Like, you're probably talking about Notre Dame as, like, are they number 2 or are they number 1? Like, where do they belong at the very top of the rankings right now?
Max, here in Waco, we're going to have Baylor and Texas. Obviously been a very rough start for the Bears and Dave Aranda. Yep. UT had a little bit of a letdown last week, I think is fair to say, post-Alabama. But, seeing some of Texas' flaws, is that concerning to you that the offense is kind of big player bust and that the running game maybe hasn't quite got going? Or is that just something of, they're so explosive and talented elsewhere that those are the types of things they can overcome?
Yeah, I think that the Rice game and the Wyoming game, you look at them, and look at Alabama to some extent too, but that's a different kind of matchup, obviously. But the Rice and Wyoming game, I think the kind of consistent thing there is I think Sark not really loving what he's seen in terms of offensive rhythm and consistency drive to drive. And, it hasn't looked great at times despite how talented they are. And so I think there's still kind of the identity, you saw some really good things against Alabama with the big play passing, with the ability to finish the game late on the ground. But I think Texas is still, like, we're not to the point now where Texas can just show up and put up 40 points. Like, I think they're still kind of getting this thing figured out here. And so I on the Texas side, this is kind of probably a take care of business kind of game for them. But I can see it being pretty competitive because you just haven't really seen them show up and drop a lot of points on somebody and really, really kind of put that fear into people yet. So I think Dave Aranda will have some interesting answers for them that they haven't really put up a ton of points on his defenses when they've played. And I think it's a good test to just see is Texas legit.
All right, who is leading the country in stop rate?
Stop rate, we will have that out next week. Right now,
I thought you came out.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, the way we do it, I mean, I look at it in terms of games you played against FBS opponents. So there's just a lot of teams that have only played one or two so far lately, and so right now Ohio State and Michigan are at the top of that list. Who's been really impressive though, and is in the top 5 right now is actually Oklahoma. And look, you could chalk it up to quality of competition, but I think they're feeling a lot better about what they've got defensively so far. And they got Cincinnati this week. I think that they're probably going to. I think they're well positioned to be undefeated going into Red River and be a real factor in this conference race.
Max, you and Ari went to North Carolina.
Yep.
You went into the Jordan sneaker vault. Sanctuary, whatever it is. Did you try to make off with any? And if you could have, which ones would you have taken?
I did not try to make off with any. Ari definitely thought about it. There's a couple that he really coveted. For me, it's like I didn't grow up like a Carolina fan or anything like that, but that Carolina blue on a Jordan, that's pretty damn hard to beat, honestly. And I think the 3s, you could talk me. I mean, I would take any of them as a gift, honestly. But I think that just seeing that wall was it blew me away. Ari was ready to sign a letter of intent as soon as he saw it.
Yeah, no, I mean that'd be very, very cool. And obviously Max got a good thing going there right now. But yeah, I know what you mean. That's iconic. The jump man.
What is it for you guys?
Jump man on Carolina blue.
If you're grabbing a shoe, what box are you trying to take home?
You know the one that I think, and again, this is probably a little old school. The pure white with the Nike swoosh on the side, the black Nike swoosh on the side is all I want. That's what I want. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's boring.
Yeah,
but that was. That's the original. The only thing is they get dirty pretty quick and scuffed, and that's not good.
I would because I wanted them when they came out. Even though I was a little kid, I want them once. The Jordan 1, the very first ones.
The ones I just mentioned?
That's a great call.
Yeah.
Great call.
All right. Yeah. I want high tops, though.
I like the 3s, the 4s, and the 12s. Those are the ones that I like quite a bit. But, that's, I think, where I would go.
Love it.
Max, the USC situation that you brought up at the very beginning, let's circle back to that. I just saw the statement that USC released from Lincoln Riley where he basically said that both sides could have handled it differently. Obviously, a young reporter just trying to, do his job, but also learning, and a coach who should probably know better and how to handle this, But what do you make of what went down in Los Angeles and how it's now been handled here a few days later?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's and just not a good look for USC at all to try to dole out a suspension to somebody. I think that, look, I jumped on to a college beat really young when I was, 22, 23 covering Texas for ESPN, and that's a pretty high pressure job. And, believe me, I made lots of mistakes. I certainly was always appreciative of the SIDs who, were willing to talk it out and be professional about it and kind of help me learn a little bit and learn what I screwed up and have a little grace about it. Because that, inevitably that's going to happen. Even if you think you're doing a good job, you're going to make mistakes or have missteps, and they're not always intentional and malicious and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes you just screw up. And I've certainly dealt with some SIDs who didn't treat me well when those situations happen. And so, I think that, for USC to take it to that extent over pretty little stuff, I think Lincoln Riley took a beating on that one this week, and that's something they shouldn't try going forward. And I think whenever you can kind of talk that stuff out, I think that's a lot better than trying to take those kinds of drastic steps. And honestly, I've heard of people being punished, but throwing out a suspension that's pretty extreme, and obviously didn't play well.
Lincoln Riley acted like a middle schooler with this deal. I mean, he's got more important things to worry about. I know he wants information tight. But this was nothing he needed to be involved with. And now you wonder, he's overruled, right? And, is he going to be a petulant child now with the administration? I know he's making tons of money, got a mansion, but this was so unnecessary.
Yeah, and he's got a new boss, Jen Cohen, who came down from Washington. I'm sure there's a little bit of that going on. Lincoln Riley is such a big figure there, and so powerful and so beloved, and has them heading in the right direction for a playoff and all that kind of stuff. So if Lincoln has shown at Oklahoma, that's something he cares about. He cares about policing that stuff, and it's hard to kind of tell whether you're the media relations person or even the AD. It's hard to tell the head coach, hey, let's maybe not do this. You know what I mean? And so, I think he learned a lesson on this one as well.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Max Olson, theathletic.com. Most